chapter of John gives us some of the most powerful verses in all of Christendom. Those words in which Jesus said, "For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever liveth and believeth in him would never die, but have life eternal." Earlier in that chapter, we have the powerful conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus. Nicodemus is one of the members of the Sanhedrin Council, one of the most powerful, wealthy, and influential men in all of Israel, one of the 70 rulers. But he has given his life over to power, status, money, and when he goes to speak to Jesus, he goes because he has heard of another world where the most important things are tenderness, compassion, mercy, and grace. And Nicodemus is conflicted. Which world is the real world? And when Jesus talks to him, he doesn't give Nicodemus clear answers. Jesus says, "You can be born again, Nicodemus." And Nicodemus stumbles with that term even as we do. Jesus says you are born once a human being of your human parents, but you can be born anew from above of the Spirit. Don't be afraid of the term born again. It simply means to die to an old identity and to be raised again into a new identity. But when Nicodemus, who had been trained to think in black and white, absolute logical terms, said to Jesus, "What are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense to me." Jesus gives him the most enigmatic answer. He says, "The wind blows wherever it wills. You hear the sound of it, but you don't know where it comes from or where it is going to. So it is with every person who is born of the Spirit." And Nicodemus leaves disappointed. But that's not the last time that Nicodemus encounters Jesus. He encounters Christ 3 more times. The next time is when the Sanhedrin Council gathers to hear these rumors of a man teaching mercy and grace. And they say, "This man must die." At that point, Nicodemus stands up in the council and says, "You cannot try a man and sentence him to death unless he is present to defend himself." Now, Nicodemus is not defending Jesus here. He is simply upholding the law of the Sanhedrin Council. But when he says those words, one of the other Sanhedrin says to him, "Nicodemus, are you also from Galilee?" And he is subtly accusing Nicodemus of wanting to follow Jesus. The third time that Nicodemus encounters Christ is when they do bring him to trial, and when they do, and they find him guilty and worthy of death, Nicodemus doesn't say a word. We already know that he is attracted to this new life that Jesus offers. We know that he is touched and moved by it. What was happening in the heart of Nicodemus on that day when they sentenced Jesus? And I wonder to myself if when Jesus was led out of the court, if Jesus caught the eye of Nicodemus and Nicodemus heard his voice again, "The wind blows where it wills." And Nicodemus knew that the wind was blowing in the depth of his soul. But it's the fourth encounter that is most powerful and most telling. And whenever you read John 3, please remember this last encounter. After Christ was dead and on the cross of Calvary, the Sanhedrin Council had to meet one more time because they had a problem. They could not leave the offense of a dead body on a cross over the Passover celebration. So they gathered together to say, who are we going to hire to take that offense, that cadaver, down from the cross? Now they knew who it would be. They would hire the lowest of the low. They would hire a person that they would call the scum of the earth to do that job, because no upstanding church person would touch a cadaver on the eve of Passover, because that would make them unclean for the whole of the highest holy day of the year. And as they were discussing which criminal or thief or lowlife they would hire, a terrible thing happened. One of the oldest and wisest and most respected members of the Sanhedrin Council stood up, and his name was Joseph of Arimathea. And Joseph said, "You don't need to hire anyone. I will go." And the whole council knew what that meant. It meant that Joseph was turning his back on what his family had worked 1,000 years to attain, the power, the status, the dignity of the office of Sanhedrin.